So thank you for that. We're going to continue to dial it in and hear from Chris Matthews from Mecklenburg County on how they've used their green infrastructure as a resource for their resilience planning. Thank you.
My poker nickname is Hardball, so if you want to call me Hardball at any point during the day, feel free to do that. So the type of green infrastructure that I'm going to be talking about today has nothing to do with water management necessarily. It's not BMPs, it's not an engineered structure. What I'm going to be talking about today is open space, natural areas, and parklands. So just to make sure everyone's clear about what we'll be talking about today. So let me tell you a little bit about my department. We're a traditional recreation park and rec department. Mecklenburg County Park and Rec serves all the residents of Mecklenburg County. So we don't have a City of Charlotte department. It's Mecklenburg County. So we serve all 1 million people that live in Mecklenburg County. Now, my job is to oversee the 26 nature preserves that we have in town. So of the 21,000 acres that we have in our park system, I manage about 7,500 of them. And what we have are large open spaces with passive recreation for the most part, nature centers. You can see some of the stats up here. We manage over 2 million trees. We have threatened and endangered species. We run nature programs. We have 1 million people a year that we know that come through our nature preserves, and only 7 of them, so we don't have counters on all of our 26 nature preserves. And our budget for my division alone is about $3.4 million. This year it's gone up. I'll talk a little bit more about that. So, why I'm up here talking about the value of open space? Well, it really goes back to the recession. So when the recession hit, we know that most people love nature and they love the outdoors, but oftentimes nature people don't understand it. What is this about nature stuff? So in the recession, our Park and Rec department got cut 50%. We went from a $50 million agency to $25 million. And my natural resources group got cut 60%. So we were managing a bunch of land with a very few number of people. We felt like it was important to kind of get in front of elected officials and decision makers and say, hey, wait a minute. Parks are important. Open space is important. Let me show you how important this is. And by the way, I know you're numbers driven, so I'm going to do it in a numbers way. So that's what this presentation is all about. There is a lot of information in this program. I usually give it in an hour. I have 20 minutes. So I'm going to do it with a purpose. If you have questions, obviously we can talk later. Open space, we consider them a facility, just like this building. It takes money and it takes staff to make sure that we take care of it. And through the years, we've justified the support for this because this year our Park and Rec department got a 33% increase in our budget. We went from $44 million to $52 million. And in large measure because of this. And if you look at what the purple down here, you probably can't read it, but what it shows here, and this is our Board of County Commissioners and what they think is important, what you see here is air quality, water quality, and nature preserves. Is something that they think are a mandated service. So we're right up there with some things that most people think are very important. And we just did a public survey ahead of our FY20 budget. And we asked the citizens, if you had $100, how would you spend it? Here's what they said they would spend it on. They said they would spend it on education, affordable housing, and number 3 is parks and greenways. Number 4 is other, and number 5 is air, land, and water. All before economic development. So this is important to citizens, at least in Mecklenburg County. And then we used to do a balanced scorecard, which is kind of our strategic way of running business. It's interesting that our Park and Rec department was never considered, we're always discretionary. We could go away at any minute, with the exception of my group, Natural Resources. In fact, we're listed as a business imperative because we manage our outdoor facilities. So all of Park and Rec could go away except for Hardball. And Hardball is here forever and ever and ever. I have really good, job security. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about some of the methods that we use to kind of calculate this. We're open to sharing ideas. This is not the only way to do it. This is the way we did it. And maybe it'll give you some ideas. Now, before I get into this, I need to say a couple of things. We used a bunch of numbers. And we looked at a bunch of studies, and we looked at ranges. How much is a tree worth? How much is an acre of water quality worth? We always took the lowest number. So I didn't want anyone to come in and say, well, Chris, you're inflating this. You're making this number bigger than it possibly has to be. What we did was we looked at the range, and I'll show you an example here in a slide or two, and I'll show you what the differences is. Now, Mark Twain said there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. And George Canning said, I can prove anything by statistics except the truth, right? So some people might think that this is a little bit of a funny thing, but I can tell you that we think that it holds water pretty well. So let me kind of walk you through what we did. We looked at a bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of studies all over the internet, various agencies, federal agencies, state agencies, local information. We took information from everywhere. And what we decided to do was we were going to look at these three categories. We were going to look at environmental, we were going to look at economic, and then we were going to look at the social benefits of our nature preserve system. Remember, this is just nature preserves, 1/3 of our park and rec department. So we looked at air, water quality, wildlife, tax benefits, tourism, direct revenue, health, education, and community cohesion as all subsets of these topics. So let's look at air first. A lot of words here. I only want you to focus on two things. And again, you'll have this presentation later if you want to read it. Mecklenburg County, Charlotte, North Carolina, 12th worst in the U.S. for ozone. Big problem for us. The bottom one, air and water quality continue to be ranked number 1 or number 2 by our Board of County Commissioners. Everyone understands this is a big deal. So how do you frame this? Well, we went out and we took a look at our nature preserves, and this only represents a subset of them. We counted how many trees, and then based on our studies, we figure out how many tons of pollutants that each one of these nature preserves removes. And what we find is half of my nature preserves remove about 500,000 pounds of air pollutants every year just by sitting there. Now we have big trees. We have oak trees and hickory trees and pine trees. It's drastically different from what you have in Florida, but the habitats here do exactly the same thing. So what we were able to do is calculate how many acres we have, how many trees we have, and run a number, and just in and of themselves, just by sitting there, our trees provide the citizens of Mecklenburg County a $2.2 million benefit. Now here's how we got to the number. The lowest number that we could find was $1.30 per year per tree. The highest number that we could find, and you can't see it at the bottom, you'll see it on the slide, is $62,000 an acre. We took the lowest number. Had we taken the highest number, that would have resulted in $334 million of benefit. So what I can say to you is that it's somewhere between 2.2 and 344 million. We're going to choose 2.2 because it's the lowest number. Water quality. Again, Mecklenburg County, we're struggling because we're growing at a rapid rate. You know, the areas here around West Palm and Charlotte are 2 of the top 20 fastest growth areas in the United States according to Forbes. I think y'all are 12 and we're number 19. So we're really close there. Again, last bullet, air and water quality continues to be ranked number 1 or number 2 by the Board of County Commissioners. Out of 7 categories, always number 1, number 2. Let me show you why water quality and air quality too are so important. So this is a map of Mecklenburg County. The green that you see is in undeveloped areas, and the yellow that you see are developed. Now I want you to look and see what has happened in Mecklenburg County since 1976, and we're going to project this out to 2030. Okay, remember, green is undeveloped, yellow is developed. 1976, 1985, 96, 2006, 2010, 15, 20, 25, 30. By 2030, Mecklenburg County is going to be 97% developed. That's a lot like what's going on here, isn't it? Rapid growth, loss of natural resources. You think air and water quality are important? You better believe it. So we were able to do some calculations on water quality benefits based on our land acreage, and we came up with our lowest number, $1 million, just by them sitting there. Just the trees, the grass, whatever. Wildlife. So our preserves are real important for wildlife. We have threatened and endangered species. We know that we have 300 species of birds and 95 species of butterflies, and on and on and on, because our scientists know what we have out there. What's the value of wildlife? What's the value of a rare species? Well, let me put this in a little bit in perspective. So here's something that one of our residents sent us. He said he and his daughter used to go out into a park. They saw this tree, and there were always owls sitting in the tree, so they called it the Harry Potter tree. And the guy said, you know what, I really want to thank you for providing this opportunity. He said, thanks for keeping the park safe for the animals and allowing this father-daughter moment. How do you put a price on that? Can't. However, what we decided to do was we would put a price on it because we spend about $1 million on our natural resources group every single year. So within Park and Rec, our natural resources group, the budget annually is about $1 million. So we're going to throw that in the pot. Economics. Study after study after study shows that there's a tax benefit, a proximity effect to properties living near parks. I'll just give you an example. Central Park, New York. Where's some of the most expensive real estate on the planet? Right next to Central Park. Parks are vital for economic development. So what we were able to do is to show that adjacent property owners that live next to parks and nature preserves, there's actually a tax benefit. Their houses are worth more. The communities get more taxes from them. When they get ready to sell their house, they can charge more. My wife's a real estate agent. What do you think one of the things she does in every single house that she wants to sell that's near a park or a greenway trail? It's one of the first things that shows up as an amenity, right? So we're able to show that just the people living next to nature preserves, and this is not parks, just nature preserves, $1.1 million in added benefit. Tourism. We get 14 million tourists a year in Charlotte. You guys, probably more. Big part of your economy, right? So we were able to calculate, because we take visitation and we know kind of what people do, we were able to get a subset of those people that visit our nature preserves, and we were able to come up with, based on the lowest number that we could find, a $20 million benefit from tourism just based on people visiting nature preserves. And then another 1.5 million in tax revenue because they're out there buying stuff. Okay? Big number. And you got your number in the communities you live is probably big too. Direct revenue, we run programs for people in our division. We rent campgrounds and shelters. We sell things in our gift shop like, stuffed frogs and, squirmy snakes and things like that. So we get a little bit of revenue, $350,000 from that. Now, let's talk a little bit about social benefits. This is really hard to quantify, I gotta be honest with you. There are no good numbers out there. But it's important to be able to run through this and have everyone understand that this is added value on top of what we're talking about. We're not going to read everything. I just want you to focus on the bottom box. Over 100 studies find that spending time in nature reduces stress. You got a stressful day, your morning has just been terrible. The board chair is like breathing down your neck. They're killing you. What do you do at lunchtime? You go for a walk, right? Go take a breath. Go outside, hang out, go in nature. Close proximity to green spaces is associated with less depression, anxiety, and other health problems. Study after study show this. Everyone kind of knows this. Children have a much better chance of avoiding obesity if they live where they can safely walk, bike, and have access to parks and open space. There's compelling evidence that nature is useful as a therapy for some of the things that we and some of our children deal with, ADD, ADHD. So for example, you can give your child or give yourself a pill because you're stressed out and you need to focus. You can take a pill, or studies have shown you can take your kid for a walk out in the park for 20 minutes, same therapeutic effect. So you want to go walk in the woods, or you're going to want to take some medication. Adults under 65, we see that they get a $300 a year in health savings if they live near parks, and if you're over 65, it's more than double. We're an aging population. Isn't it a good idea to save on health care? Nature preserves, open space, and parks are a great place for that to happen. Extensive research confirms the benefits of environmental education programs. Schools that have environmental education as part of their component, or kids that take part in nature programs, summer camps, things like that, do better in school. Many studies show that this is indeed the case. Parks and open space create community, strengthen relationships, and build caring qualities. Parks is one of the few places that you can go to from any economic background, any social status, doesn't matter where you're from, and everyone's the same. Everyone's equal. When we have first night in Uptown on January 1st or December 31st or 4th of July, our urban parks are packed, and it's from people all over the community. So let's add the numbers up. Air, water quality, wildlife, a little like $4 million, tax proximity effect, tourism, direct revenue, over $20 million, and who knows what the social benefits are. Hard to quantify, but we know that they're there and they're really important. My nature preserve system provides $26 million worth of benefit to the citizens of Mecklenburg County, and that's with an investment of $3.4 million. That's like an 800-900% return on investment. Anyone want to invest in the stock market with a guaranteed 900% return? Every single one of us in this room wants to do that. So, obviously tourism is the biggest one for us, but air quality, water quality, wildlife, they're all up there. So open spaces, parks, however you want to do it, they're critical for your economy. And it's not just Mecklenburg County, it's not just here, it's all over the United States. Arizona, New York, California, South Carolina, San Diego, the list goes on and on and on. Every one of these places shows how important open space, natural resources, and parks are to the citizens that live there and to resilience and to the economy. So a few take-homes real quick. Parks and open space provide a tremendous return on investment. No matter how you calculate it, big numbers. Parks and open space build communities, along with schools and churches and other gathering spaces. They make neighborhoods stronger, and they provide community cohesion. And our public agrees. We take surveys, you guys take surveys. When you look at the top 3 things that people are interested in, you can see that number 3, the third one down there, is parks and open space. Can't read the others. I can't read it from up here either, but it'll be in your presentation, right? Very, very important. In fact, 99% of the people agreed that one of the benefits of parks and nature preserves and open space was the protection of the environment. The public agrees that all of these things that we talked about, again, the third one down there is parks and open space. And it's right behind, let me read them real quick. Health and fitness, quality of life, open space. And that was the same with the other one. Same exact 3. Crompton, he's a gentleman down in Texas A&M, he said there are no great cities in North America or the world that do not have a great park, recreation, open space, and cultural recreation amenities. It's got to be part of the equation. So thank you so much. I hope that this kind of frames it a little bit better for you. There are ways to be able to calculate the value of your open space. Obviously, Florida here, we're dealing with different things than we are in Mecklenburg County, but I think this is a really good way to kind of frame how valuable these things are, not only to your community, but in your pursuit of resilience.